So this is a session on workforce improvement through training, targeted training. My name is Mark Sengupta. I'm with ARC Advisory Group. I've got about 26 years in process automation. I've been working with ARC for a little over a year now, and welcome. So the agenda here, we've got 5 speakers, not including myself. So Andy Mason with Cargill will be speaking. He'll give you a 10-minute update on their approach to training. We've got Jeremy Patches, Cliff Peterson, and Stephen Huffman. And, I'm so sorry, Dan. Dan McGrath is also speaking with Panduit. I apologize for that. Anyway, the goal of this session is to give you a background of what they do for training, but not a lot of depth. And then the goal is for you to ask the questions to get what you need out of this panel. Okay, is that fair? Okay. So while you're listening, make sure you're thinking about things you want to ask. And one of the things I like to think about when it comes to training, there's 3 parts to it. You've got a process, a training process. You've got technology that you use, but you've also got a culture. And of the 3, we tend to forget about the culture. So your company culture needs to be considered when you're coming up with the training that you've got. How many people think, oh, another training program, darn. Well, that's part of your culture, and you've got to work around that. So that's something that when you're thinking about questions and implementation, think about those questions as well. Think about your company culture and what's going to work for that culture. Okay. Other questions you can keep in mind. We've got, what can I use at my company? What kind of technology is involved or could be involved? What needs to change? How do I get buy-in from my management? Management is a big deal for training because they're the one that drives your culture. What are some successful employee retention approaches that have been used? Do you have any examples of changing company culture? The reason I'm so big on company culture, there's a fellow named Peter Drucker, you may have heard of him. He's got a quote that says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." So you can have the best training plan in place, but if you haven't got a culture that matches that training plan, you're dead. Okay, and with that, I'm going to ask Andy to come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Mason. I have been with Cargill for probably most of my career. I've had basically one other job other than Cargill. So talk about culture. That is a big thing at Cargill, is the culture. And there's some people in here that work at Cargill, and I think they can iterate over that. That is a big part of Cargill, is understanding the culture and understanding how things flow with that. And a little about Cargill, real quick, is we provide food services, agricultural, financial, and also industrial products and services to the customers we support around the world. We're a global company, and that's been present some challenges to us in building training and building qualifications around the globe. So talk a little bit about that today, and we'll go deeper into it as we get into the panel, hopefully. Okay, some of the key principles that we look at is safety, availability, integrity, and also how it affects our industrial control systems. And really, we look at a number of things around around those categories for operational excellence. So that really drives our operational excellence of what we look at, is the safety, integrity, and the security of our industrial control systems. We also focus pretty heavily on the qualifications and having people that are trained and qualified to be working on our control systems. That helps us meet some of the operational excellence goals that we have. So something also we've done in the last couple of years is building what we call Center of Excellence, COEs, around Cargill. We've started building these Center of Excellence to really focus on developing best practices, standards, and using them really to collaborate and share information with different people. And it really also engages people to allow people, we've got a number of plants around the globe, so we'll bring people from those plants into the COEs and allow them to participate and also to have a voice. And in one of the last sessions I was in today, that was one of the big things we talked about, was getting people involved and getting a voice into what's going on in the bigger picture of things. But it's also a balance we have to make sure that we have people balancing their time when they're working in the business, plus participating in corporate initiatives that we have in driving standards and best practices across the enterprise. Qualifications, that's something that we want to ensure that people that's performing changes in our plant technologies are qualified. And that sounds pretty basic, but we want to make sure that people performing changes have the qualifications to perform those changes. And we've started developing qualification programs for people who provide support for the ICS. So we're developing training programs, so we make sure that, whether you're on frontline support, whether you're on the help desk, whether you're on project delivery or some of those different teams, you're actually have the proper training and qualifications to actually work on those control systems, because they're extremely critical to our overall company. We've also developing manufacturing IT teams. A lot of people call it different names, OT, but we're developing manufacturing IT teams across the globe. So we'll have 4 regional teams that'll focus on IT technology for manufacturing. Those teams will be focused in the regions. They'll also have connect points to where they actually report back to the enterprise to make sure that we have some cohesence within the company. And those teams we're in the early stages of deploying those. North America is fairly mature, and other regions are different stages along the maturity model as we go forward. Training and development qualifications. One thing that's key to us is, we think if we got properly trained and qualified people, we think that'll help lead to increased uptime, increased efficiencies, and really reduce unplanned downtime in our plants. And that's extremely critical to us. And again, the COEs are helping to develop best practice and standards that we're rolling out across the globe. We're going to continue to do that and try to get more leverage from our COEs to develop that and be able to participate. We're also working to develop career paths for our manufacturing IT folks. Compared to traditional IT where people move around jobs a lot, what we're finding is with manufacturing IT, those individuals stay in those careers longer term. So they have a longer term goal of staying in that career path. So we're starting to build career paths to really make sure that we can attract the right people and also keep people that want to stay in the manufacturing IT space long term. So that's extremely critical to us. I think that's my 4 slides. I think Jeremy is up next. Thank you.